Now 1:26 p.m. and the State Board of Education is returning to open session. Quorum of the board is present. The regular meeting of the State Board of Education is reconvened. Ms. Evans, are there individuals who wish to address the board during today's meeting?
Yes, there are people who have registered to provide public comment today, and I will review the rules. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes to address the board, and I will keep track of time. We will be strictly following the time limited so that everyone has an opportunity to speak. It is the practice of the board not to respond to comments during the public participation portion of the meeting. We will maintain an atmosphere of respect for all. Any person disrespecting anyone by name or otherwise will be asked to cease. Public participation will occur in person and virtually. We will begin with those persons that are physically in the room with us today and then move to those in the queue online. Okay, in the room with us today we have Kathy Lester, and as she approaches the table, you will see a document, MASL document. It was just a single page, yes, that is distributed from her. And whenever you're ready, you may begin.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Lester, and I'm here today to speak on behalf of the Michigan Association of School Librarians, or MASL. March is Reading Month, as was discussed earlier in today's meeting, and school librarians across the state are leading efforts to celebrate reading school-wide, leading a school-wide culture of reading, providing access to diverse and inclusive resources, and helping students to develop a love and joy of reading is just one of the core values of the school library profession. Thus, while Michigan school librarians celebrate books and reading every month, during March's Reading Month, they highlight the importance of reading with a variety of special promotions and celebrations. I've provided just 2 examples in the handout of school librarians celebrating March's Reading Month, and I would have to have hundreds of pages to provide all of the information about the ways that we celebrate. Our organization, MASL's, put together a compilation of Michigan legislators' favorite books from when they were young or ones that they currently like to share with students. And the link of that celebration is the top link in your handout if you want to check it out. Our members in their buildings and districts are leading school-wide or community-wide reads, leading March Madness type style book competitions, hosting mystery or guest readers, arranging author visits, leading student battle the book events, conducting drop everything and read hours in their school libraries, holding parent events to promote reading, and more. And did you know that this year's National AASL National School Library of the Year, West Maple Elementary School with school librarian Carrie Betts, is in Michigan? As part of March's Reading school-wide celebration at her school, Miss Betts dresses up as a different book character connected to her lesson every day. She also hosted Michigan author Kelly Baptist's visit to her school. Carrie had met Miss Baptist at this year's MASL conference. Miss Baptist was the featured speaker at our conference author breakfast. In any case, every student in Michigan deserves access to the resources, lessons, and support provided by a school library staffed by a certified school librarian. MASL hopes to continue to partner with MDE on initiatives to help strengthen access to school libraries in our state. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now move to those online. Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
If you please state your name and where you're calling from, you may begin your moments of public comment.
Yes, I am Rebecca Chamberlain, and I'm calling from Linden, Michigan.
Very good. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good afternoon, and I thank you for your time. I would like to respond to your February meeting comments concerning homeschool registration. I understand and appreciate that you all care about the welfare and education of children. However, I must point out that legally, the role of the public school system in protecting and educating children is limited. The public school system is a taxpayer-funded service whose purpose is to provide education to the general public. If parents choose to utilize this service, they are choosing to entrust the safety and education of their children to the public school system. And then, yes, you have a duty and responsibility to protect and educate these children entrusted to you. However, this responsibility stops there. The public school system does not have authority within personal homes or private education. Per Michigan Compiled Law 380.10, and I quote, "It is the natural fundamental right of parents and legal guardians to determine and direct the care, teaching, and education of their children." Please note that these are the fundamental rights of the parents, not the state. At the heart of this issue is parental rights. Many seem to believe that the public school system was organized to provide protection for children from their parents. What an outrageous thought. I think I can safely say that I speak for the homeschool community when I tell you that it is 100% opposed to the abuse and neglect of children, and that they believe existing laws should be appropriately used as needed. I ask that you please recognize the limit of your authority and preserve the established sovereignty of the individual family unit. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. If you'd please state your name and where you're calling from, you may begin your 3 minutes of public comment.
Okay. Sorry, technical difficulty. My name is Lindsay Hill, and I'm calling from Brighton, Michigan.
Very good. Whenever you're ready, you may begin.
Hello and good afternoon to everyone today. My name is Lindsay Hill, and my family and I would just like to thank every one of you who are dedicating your time and your legislative attention to our children. It is such a worthy cause, and our children today need you now more than ever. I wanted to speak to you today to implore you to maintain our existing homeschool laws. Michigan boasts the best in the country, and our children are thriving in this sphere with this method of instruction. The same cannot be said, however, for our public school counterparts, no matter what metric is being used to evaluate them. A registry would divert important funds away from our public schools, who need every penny to manage what's on their overfilled plates. The management and execution of such a plan would also be cumbersome, as other states such as Vermont and Ohio have already done away with this as a result of their implementation. Let us learn from their costly mistake and spend our time and resources on the largest group of Michigan's children that need it the most, public schools. In the reality of today, we have finite amounts of time and money, and we need to be really intentional about where and how we spend it. For these reasons and more, I ask you to set this topic down for a time when the majority of our state's children are not in an educational crisis. Thank you for your consideration today, and as you move forward with your decision making.
Thank you. Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. If you please state your name and where you're calling from, you may begin your public comment.
Hi, I'm Kriti Rai-Rapu, and I'm calling from Canton, Michigan.
Very good. Whenever you're ready, you may begin.
Hi, I'm Kriti Rai-Rapu, a senior at Canton High School and also a member of MOASH, or Michigan Organization on Adolescent Sexual Health. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I'm here to talk about sexual misconduct prevention and how schools can better assist survivors. Sexual misconduct is a huge issue for youth. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys have been sexually abused before the age of 18. In addition, schools are the most common location of peer sexual victimization, with 15 to 44 assaults happening in the survivor's school. It is in our schools' best interest to keep their students safe and protect them from trauma, mental health issues, substance abuse, and anything else that contributes to their students' poor academic performance and poor well-being. While I personally have never dealt with sexual misconduct, I do have close friends that have had difficulty navigating their experience of sexual misconduct with the school system. With the assistance of a close friend and colleague at MOASH, who is also someone with this experience, we have compiled a list of suggestions for schools in order to better support survivors. These include, number 1, having a list of accessible mental health resources, self-care-based resources, and specific places to go, in addition to support from school counseling. Having a list of specific places to go gives the survivor direction and allows them to navigate the next steps of the process easier. Number 2, we also urge teachers to have adequate training in responding to sexual violence disclosures. Often, teachers are the closest adult figures in schools to students, so it is imperative that they are effectively trained in dealing with this. Number 3, schools should have one documentation of the survivor's story rather than having to re-traumatize the survivor by having them repeatedly report their experience. Number 4, schools should also make aware who survivors can talk to in order to report their experience. This eliminates any uncertainty and would help streamline the sexual misconduct process in schools. Number 5, there should be a clear outline of what the sexual misconduct school process looks like and have it known to students. This is so survivors are prepared and have a choice on reporting or not. And finally, number 6, faculty should offer academic understanding for the survivor when they are dealing with the process. In addition, while helping survivors is important, it is equally important to think about how we can prevent these experiences from happening in the first place. We urge schools to include relationship education in their curriculum, especially with creating and maintaining healthy relationships and spotting the signs of an unhealthy relationship. In conclusion, while shame and stigma create huge barriers for schools and students regarding sexual misconduct, it is up to schools to create healthy and accepting environments that discourage sexual misconduct, as well as allow survivors to feel empowered when asking for assistance and support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, caller, can you hear me? If you would please state your name and where you're calling from, you may begin your public comment.
My name is Lisa Stoltens. I'm calling from Zeeland, Michigan.
Very good.
I'm a homeschool mom. I thank you for taking public comment during your meetings. I attended the House Education Committee meeting last night in Sterling Heights, and I heard about an hour and a half of testimony from school admins and school counselors, psychologists, social workers about the increasing mental health crisis in our Michigan public school students. None of the testimony that I heard would have compelled me to believe that putting my child into the described environment would be beneficial or more safe for him. It was quite eye-opening and shocking and quite honestly sad to hear the situations that are happening in these schools and the frequency of them. One vice principal described situations that he encountered daily in his job, including breaking up fights and dealing with suicidal students. He said that these situations were ones you could walk into at any moment, at any time at his school. They happen all the time. Lack of funding and lack of people like qualified teachers, support staff, psychologists, social workers, and the such was the main theme throughout the evening. And the lack of people, a lot of that has to do with the lack of funding. So my question, or what I would like you to consider, is how would you fund a homeschool registry? Where would you find the people to monitor it? And are you going to be taking resources then away from situations in the public schools that you already monitor that don't have the funds to lose, that need more funds? I was recently asked to judge a homeschool speech and debate event, and one of the topics that they had in the impromptu speech was, before attempting to change the world, look around your own home 3 times. And I would ask that the State Board of Education and our legislatures do that. Look around your own home. What needs to be fixed in our schools to stop the rate of people removing their children, and to also help the children that are currently there and to keep them safe and well. Thank you again for taking the time for my call.
Thank you.
I'm going to be taking resources then from situations in the
Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you please mute the YouTube in the background?
Yep.
Thank you. If you could please state your name and where you're calling from, you may begin your 3 minutes of public comment.
Hello, my name is Jessica Hamlin. I'm calling from Howell, Michigan. First, I would like to start off with the important fact. Parental rights enacted in 1996, NCLA 38010 states, it is the natural fundamental right of parents and the legal guardians to determine the direct care, teaching, and education of their children. In Michigan, we have two options to homeschool. One is to just homeschool out of your home. There's no reporting. There's no requirement to the state. There is also another option, and another option has the ability to operate in a non-public school. Co-ops often fall into those categories. You can also operate both simultaneously. So as far as a registration may go, it is the parental right to register or to not register. So if a family would like to register their children, by all means, they are more than welcome to go to the superintendent or the principal of their district, and they can let them know where their children is. My children are not missing. My children do not need to be surveilled by the State Board of Education, or by the superintendent. My children do not need to be monitored. They do not need to be put into any statistics. They do not need to be regulated on their home education. That is our right. I would also like to end with under the Michigan.gov MVE About Us, states Michigan's first constitution created a superintendent of public instruction in 1835. John D. Pierce, a frontier missionary, was Michigan's first superintendent and the first independent administrator of education appointed under a state constitution in the United States. The State Board of Education's current responsibilities were established by the 1963 state constitution. The leadership legacy continues as board members lead the way in improving public education through recommendations and actions that have resulted in key legislative changes. I am telling you to stay in your lane. Your lane needs it, as you have heard before from many other speakers. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Mike, are there any other callers who have registered or pre-registered for public comment today?
Those are all the callers.
Thank you so much. This concludes public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Thank you, Mr. Flaminio. Dr. Pugh, to you.
Thank you, Dr. Rice. And per Dr. Rice's contract, the State Board of Education conducts an annual evaluation by April 1st of each year. And we went into closed session earlier today to discuss the superintendent's evaluation. The board provided overall comments that were supportive of the board's leadership. And I am happy to say that once again, a majority of the board evaluated Dr. Rice outstanding or excellent. And just want to again reiterate how proud we are to have a superintendent such as Dr. Rice. And these again have continued to not be easy times to be in this space. And Dr. Rice has continued to keep children centered in all conversations and all that we do. And these have, again, we've seen some unique circumstances, and Dr. Rice has continued to, you have continued to maintain focus on our strategic goals. And again, happy to hear from other board members as they add to the comments maybe that we, in the conversation that we had. And I know that we can go ahead and put forward the motion that we talked about earlier today and then continue that conversation. And this is the superintendent's annual evaluation resolution for State Board of Education meeting today, Tuesday, March 12th, 2024. Whereas the State Board of Education has conducted an annual evaluation of the state superintendent pursuant to contract and continues to appreciate and express confidence in the strong leadership of the state superintendent. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the State Board of Education acknowledges this evaluation in the public record, and pursuant to contract, does hereby extend the state superintendent's contract to July 31st, 2027. And so I move this resolution at this time.
Support.
Second.
Thank you. And would love to have discussion.
Dr. Pritchett.
Thank you. I'm going to read part of my remarks. That way I don't, just keep going on and on. So, Dr. Rice, thank you for continuing to lead the Michigan Department of Education through yet our next phase of strategic plan with a focus always on students, their families, and the richness of their diversity. From understanding the importance of a secure financial foundation for all districts, ISDs and RESAs in the state, and to providing research-based professional development to our educators, making sure that all classrooms have a highly qualified teacher. Dr. Rice is committed to all of that and more. He continually circles us back to students and their changing relevant needs. He challenges us all to focus on the importance of public schools and the difference that we all can make in children's lives. It continues to be my honor to work with Dr. Rice as we meet the continuing challenges in the educational landscape, not only here in Michigan, but across the United States. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you for any other comments?
Ms. Lipton, Mr. McMillan.
I would just like to concur in the remarks made by Doctors Pugh and Pritchett. I think that we have come through and are continuing to come through stormy waters created by the pandemic, in large part by the work of Dr. Rice, our state superintendent, constantly cognizant of the challenges ahead, constantly keeping focus on the needs of Michigan's multitude of children, and I do think that that warrants an outstanding review.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Mr. McMillan.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the resolution to state that whereas after pursuant to contract, there would be a period and striking the rest, and then say, now therefore be it resolved that the State Board of Education acknowledges its evaluation in the public record and pursuant to the contract does hereby, and then amend the remaining to say extend the state superintendent's contract for only 90 days to allow him to transition out without much disruption to the department. And if there's a second, I'd like to speak to it.
So moved.
Please.
I think we've done this in the past. This past year, I think there's been just the dismissal of age-inappropriate books and parents that are concerned about it. Also treating homeschoolers like they're presumed villains, and not being truthful that the end goal is going to be much more than a registry, as many Democrats have already said they want to control curriculum and potentially come into the homes requiring reporters to evaluate the students or the children, and so which I'm sure would gain his support, and also not defending my leap from the raid of MDE and the state board's authority that is going on by the governor.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else want to speak to that?
Yeah, I would just add that, in lieu of the evaluation, I have a letter, essentially, and a list of things that, of course, we've already talked about at this table. It's no secret that we disagree. And I don't want your evaluation to be a piece of division with which we then have to contend with as we consider what it looks like to move forward as a board. I think at the end of the day, the state of Michigan needs elected representation, regardless of the composition of the board, which voices are louder, which issues are winning the day. What we just saw with public comment, what we've seen every month, parents and students need a space at the table, a seat at the table. And so I just choose not to engage in the division that can be a part of your evaluation. So I do think that we need different education leadership in this state, and I've said that repeatedly. I would certainly not give you an outstanding evaluation, but again, rather choose to fight for elected representation on the whole.
Yeah, thank you very much. Anyone else care to share? Okay, so this is a motion on Mr. McMillan's amendment to abbreviate the contract to 90 more days. Is that a fair synopsis?
Yeah, I mean, effectively just firing you.
Yes. Okay. Very good. So there's the summary. Ms. Evans, a roll call vote.
Bullock?
Negative.
Lipton?
No.
McMillan?
Yes.
Pritchett?
No.
Pugh?
No.
Robinson?
No.
Snyder?
Yes.
And Tilly?
No.
Motion fails.
Base resolution is back on the table. Would anybody else like to speak additionally to it? Hearing none, this is the resolution that was offered by Dr. Pugh and co-seconded in a 2A, 2B by Dr. Pritchett and Senator Bullock.
Bullock?
Affirmative.
Lipton?
Yes.
McMillan?
No.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Pugh?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Snyder?
No.
And Tilly?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Board. I appreciate you, I appreciate the MDE team, and I appreciate the honor of working on behalf of Michigan children. Let's do this. While we have our outstanding staff here to wrap up our meaty presentations for the day, we're going to bring it home with disciplinary literacy. The next item on the agenda today is the approval of the proposed disciplinary literacy standards for the preparation of middle grades, that is to say 5 through 9, and high school 7 through 12 teachers. During this presentation, we will hear about the proposal that was presented to the State Board of Education in October 2023 for the revision and adoption of these new standards for the preparation of middle and high school content area teachers. These standards would replace Michigan's 2002 certification standards for the preparation of all secondary teachers in reading instruction. This presentation was followed by a period of public comment. We are now seeking board approval. We welcome our presenters doing triple duty today, Dr. Delsa D. Chapman, Deputy Superintendent, Division of Educator, Student, and School Supports, Dr. Sean Kotke, Manager of the Office of Educator Excellence, and Dr. Alam Bazi, Educational Consultant in the Office of Educator Excellence. It is truly a doctor convention. Following the presentation, the board will be asked to vote to approve the disciplinary literacy standards for the preparation of middle grades and high school teachers. There will be a PowerPoint presentation, and there will be a vote. Presenters, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Rice, and good afternoon, board. Yes, we are returning today seeking approval on the proposed disciplinary literacy standards for the preparation of middle grades 5 through 9 and high school 7 through 12 teachers. Dr. Kotke and Dr. Bazi will share the highlights and outcome of the standard setting process, including the standard domains, the key shifts, which involved a dedicated group of stakeholders. As a follow-up to our previous presentation, we will share the applicable public comment data and close with next steps upon approval of these standards. Dr. Kotke?
Thank you, and good afternoon. So we'll start with a little review. Let's see. There we go. Of what we're looking at today, the question, why disciplinary literacy? This work continues the standards work that we've been doing in support of Michigan's revised teacher certification structure, and it builds upon the State Board approved standards in literacy education for PK3 through grade 7-12 in English language arts. These standards align with General Education Leadership Network, or the GELN, Literacy Essentials for Disciplinary Literacy in grades 6 through 12, as well as International Literacy Association standards for secondary teachers. They are intended to guide reading coursework requirements for all secondary teachers. So in order to get a secondary level certificate in Michigan, you're required to have at least 3 credits in the teaching of reading, or teaching of literacy. The standards that we have currently are legendarily old, and so we are bringing these up to date. And again, that also kind of gives you a sense of the limitation around these standards. They define a particular piece of the larger teacher preparation experience focused on literacy. And they're designed to prepare all of our secondary teachers, regardless of content area, to recognize and address students' literacy developmental needs within their respective disciplines. This work aligns with 3 goals of the state strategic plan: the expanding secondary learning opportunities for all students, improving those secondary literacy opportunities, increasing a percentage of all students who graduate from high school by presenting a curriculum and instructional strategies that are most relevant and supportive of for students' graduation, and to increase the numbers of certified teachers in areas of shortage, which we operationalize as increasing the quantity, quality, and diversity of the educator workforce. And I'll turn things now over to Dr. Bazzi to speak about the standards and the public comment.
Thank you, Dr. Kaki. Good afternoon, Board. So back to who participated in the process of standards development. The 25-member stakeholder committee included representation from state and national leaders in literacy, teacher education faculty, middle and high school teachers, and professional organizations across multiple geographic regions, including the UP. So through an iterative process with several collaborative sessions, the committee developed and proposed standards organized around the 4 domains of foundational knowledge, curriculum planning and instruction, assessment and evaluation, and ultimately learners and the literacy environment. In looking at the proposed standards and reviewing against the current reading standards for content area teachers, we found 3 intentional shifts. First, whereas the current standards focus on reading instruction appropriate to content area, the proposed standards continue to focus on reading instruction and emphasize reading as a component of literacy with direct relationships to writing, listening, speaking, and viewing. The second shift, in addition to reading for gathering information in a content area, the proposed standard explicitly name, describe, and model the dispositions, patterns of thinking, and strategies for reading, writing, speaking, viewing, and visually representing that are typical for each of the disciplines. The third shift is the transition from a knowledge-based set of standards to performance-based standards, designated or designed to be enacted, observed, and practiced during the teacher candidate's supervised clinical practicums. Following the presentation on October 10th to the board, the Office of Educator Excellence solicited public comments on the proposed standards through December 11th of 2023. A total of 42 individuals participated in the public comment survey, 23 of which fully completed all questions. 22 counties across the state were represented. In response to identifying themselves by community type, 34% identified suburb, 24% identified as urban, 24% as rural, and 18% as community of town. The participants identified affiliation to 32 professional education organizations. As you can see, participation across various roles included 23% for instructional coaches, consultants, 23% for teachers, practitioners, 16% administrators, 13% as educator preparation faculty and staff, 11% from parents and guardians. We have at least 2 to 3% representation from education researchers, pre-service teachers, educator preparation dean/rector, MDE employees, staff at education associations, and other higher education roles. So with regards to level of support, with 56% taking a position of support and 26% a position of support with minor revisions, the data reflects 82% of respondents are in support of the proposed disciplinary literacy standards. No respondent opposed the standards. The 9% that selected neutral and the 9% that selected significant revisions needed did not provide any comments or suggestions for revisions. Please note that the caption in the next 3 slides are the full questions the participants experienced in the survey. And the answer choices are very well, mostly, partially, or not at all. So to the question, to what extent do you feel these proposed standards are aligned to Michigan's academic standards for K-12 learners? 92% of the respondents felt the proposed standards were either very well or mostly aligned to the state's K-12 academic standards. 8% felt they were partially aligned. Asked about the alignment of proposed standards to the essential instructional practices for disciplinary literacy in the grades 6 to 12, 88% of the respondents felt that the proposed standards were either very well or mostly aligned to the essential instructional practices for disciplinary literacy in the secondary classrooms grades 6 to 12. 12% felt they were partially aligned. 84% of the respondents felt the proposed standards represent what well-prepared beginning teachers in the middle grades and high school need to know and be able to do to support adolescent learners' disciplinary literacy development and achievement. 16% felt they were partially aligned. Please note that for the past 3 questions that presented to you, 0 respondent chose not at all. Qualitative analysis of the public comments received, 3 themes emerged: support for the standards, specific language adjustments or additions for clarity, and guidance for higher education implementation. The largest number of comments submitted expressed support for the proposed standards, praising the standards' alignment to the essential instructional practices for disciplinary literacy in the secondary classroom, also alignment to the ILA standards, as well as noting a long overdue need to update Michigan's current standard for preparation of all secondary teachers in reading instruction, which were adopted by the state board back July 11, 2002. One specific comment that stands out I'd like to share with you. What teachers should know and be able to do alongside how those practices will lead to what students should know and be able to do closes a conceptual gap. We appreciate the coherence. The second theme that emerged from the comments is specific language adjustments or additions for clarity. One such example resulted in a rewrite of the standard to clarify the standard's intended objective. Upon review, the committee agreed with feedback that the subject of literacy should not center on topics that are sociological and psychological in nature. The intent of Standard 2.1, as the commentator suggested, teachers should engage in reflection for continuous improvement of their instruction informed by considerations of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The rewrite of the standard emphasizes this practice and the intended activation of diversity, equity, inclusion for improving teaching and learning. An example of language addition is seen with Standard 2.4. The standard was appended with students' literacy development in their discipline per the feedback for additional specification. The third group of comments included requests for promoting interdisciplinary collaboration, specific pedagogical models such as project-based learning, equity-oriented differentiated teaching practices, using discipline-specific language, as well as the use of the literacy essentials definition of text, which includes charts, maps, and other visuals. These public comment responses inform the area of focus for the technical and implementation supports our team provides teacher preparation programs. In addition to providing a glossary of key terms and annotated resource lists to help teacher educators and teacher candidates understand key concepts in the standards, the rollout of these standards will underscore how they exist in conjunction with board-approved discipline-specific and professional knowledge and skill standards, highlighting the additional specificity on the core proficiencies that is upheld by these standards. Specifically, the introduction of these standards will emphasize that teacher candidates' understanding of the needs of adolescent learners in middle grades and high school contexts are given further detail in teacher preparation standards for English language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies for these grade bands. Further, it will be noted that standard P1 learner-centered supports of the board-approved professional knowledge and skills standards contain 17 performance-based elements in this competency. So more briefly than what I just shared, this image aims to reflect the complementary nature of the disciplinary literacy standards. They are intended to work in concert with board-approved standards for the specific endorsements that teacher candidates are pursuing. Those standards that emphasize within the context of content area what teachers should understand about children's development, what concepts and instructional materials are appropriate for children given their development, and what materials are appropriate for meeting instructional goals within the content area. Our next steps. Upon approval of the standards, we project spring 2024 through spring 2025 to provide the technical assistance with educator preparation providers for course revisions. Thereafter, through summer of 2025, revised coursework application submissions will be received and reviewed by our unit. And fall 2025, EPPs begin offering updated disciplinary literacy coursework.
And we thank you.
Thank you.
It was a legendary presentation.
Oh.
I heard that adjective. Rarely have I heard it at a board meeting. It was an interesting juxtaposition. Thank you very much, presenters, board members. Any questions or comments? Feels like a prayer moment or seance in the state board room. We appreciate the work of those on the committee, of those on staff to take these from legendary standards to more current standards. We appreciate that very much. Yeah, please.
You know, I know that it's unfortunate, but I would imagine there are students in middle school and even high school that don't read very well, and maybe, need instruction in even learning to read or to read well. I didn't do a search. I couldn't figure out how to do a search on this PDF, but I don't think the word phonics is in there. Is that kind of assumed, or is there any teaching in that area of actually just fundamental basic learning? I know it should occur in the elementary, but
Yes. So not within this set of standards, since this complements the other sets of standards, but our English language arts teachers have, and literacy teachers, with depending on the grade level, that is explicitly called out, phonics instruction, phonemic awareness, recognizing when children are struggling and reading significantly below grade level or can't read, and then being able to marshal appropriate resources, including our specialists, to remediate. One of our next sets of standards will be the updating of the reading specialist standards. Those are also legendarily old, having been enacted just about the same time as these other reading standards for secondary were implemented. And so that will go even deeper into the specialists who support and coach our teachers with remediating individuals who need that acceleration to learn to read.
Okay, but I mean, why would it not be in, so it's in some other standards, but not these standards? Why would it, I mean, why would it not be in these standards? I mean, there's probably a reason.
Well, then these apply across content areas. So these are standards that would be, they would be with teachers who are preparing to be an English language arts teacher, but also with learning to be a science teacher or a social studies teacher. We wouldn't see it as the right domain of the teachers of, say, science, social studies, or math to be able to remediate dyslexia. Well, to recognize dyslexia, yes, and that's the subject of some other bills, but to provide those remedial pieces. The ELA teacher, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Dr. Kaki, any other questions? Más preguntas? No? Okay. Hearing none, if I could have a motion to approve the new standards.
So moved.
So we have a motion from Dr. Robinson, second from Dr. Pugh. Do we have any additional discussion? Once, twice, thrice. Hearing none. Ms. Evans, please, a roll call vote.
Bullock?
Yes.
Lipton?
Yes.
McMillan?
No.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Pugh?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Snyder?
No.
And Tilly?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much, board. Thank you very much, presenters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, we're at the approval of State Board of Education minutes, the approval of the meeting minutes of the regular and committee of the whole meeting of February 13th, 2024. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 13th, 2024 meeting? This is my first language, right? Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Ms. Lipton. Is there any discussion? Mr. McMillan.
Yeah, in section 12, where comments by state board members, I know Liz did the best she could on probably summarizing, but portions of what I said about the homeschooling and the concerns I have with registry and additional where I think it will go, and comments by Democrat leaders as far as desire to move it further. I don't feel that it actually reflects, and I don't want to go through wordsmithing today. I don't think we need to, so I'll vote no, and I just wanted to make a comment about why I'm voting no.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Any other thoughts on the meeting minutes? Hearing and seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote on the meeting minutes, please.
Bullock?
Yes.
Lipton?
Yes.
McMillan?
No.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Pugh?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Snyder?
Pass.
And Tilly?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Board, we put two resolutions on the agenda prior to the beginning of the meeting. We've considered one of them already. This is the moment to consider the second of those two, and this is the resolution that was initially offered, I believe, by Mr. McMillan. So, Mr. McMillan, if you would like to move that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm going to move it with the understanding that there's going to be a friendly amendment afterwards, so
So you'll
move it to put it on the table.
Very good, thank you. So we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
We have a second by Ms. Snyder. And Mr. McMillan, we're back to you, or perhaps back to your friendly amender.
Yes, I move to make a friendly amendment to this, this resolution.
Based on what what's being handed out.
Based on what's being handed out.
So why don't we do this, board, if we could? Take a couple of minutes, read it, and then I'm going to ask Ms. Lipton as friendly amender to read it into the record, please. And at that point, we can discuss it. Are you comfortable with that?
Or would you like, or whatever?
It's as you choose. I mean,
I think it should be read into the record. Perhaps the mover of the.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fine. Sure, certainly. Okay. Why don't we do this? Why don't we just, because some people get distracted by the oral in the midst of their silent reading. So let's give a couple minutes for people to silently read. All right. Mr. McMillan, if you could read, please, the friendly amendment version.
Sure. If I can explain it first, and I think that might even be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what this is doing, and I'm going to speak to it because I may not necessarily, I'm fine with it, but anyway. So the friendly amendment is to strike 1 and 2, which is talking about the transfer from the 414 million from MDE to MyLeap, and the number 2 is the transfer of the employee positions from Office of Great Start under MDE to MyLeap. And then there's also, so therefore there's only 2 sections that this resolution is proposing or opposing, and those are the remaining 2, the 155 million for MyLeap, MyLeap to create a committee for literacy achievement, and then number 4, which is now number 2, $10 million for MyLeap and the literacy committee to establish a READ innovation competition. So, and then the rest is just kind of to reflect that those 2 portions were removed. So in the whereas, now it says the above 2 budget proposals involving literacy raise constitutional questions as opposed to my more definitive, clearly do. This is a raise constitutional questions. I think the S's should be removed. And then the reject, and then it's taking out to reject the transfers out of MDE and into MyLeap described above, so that's taken out. And it simply says, Michigan State Board of Education, therefore be it resolved, opposes the budgetary sections above which are contained in the governor's 24-25 proposed budget and urges the legislature to continue to place funding pertaining to public education literacy in the MDE budget.
So, so why don't we do this? So that was, I think, a pretty clear explanation for those around the table. If you could read the amended version, which you are accepting.
The whole thing? Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Because we have people who are listening at home who can't possibly follow that. I think the people around the table could because they had hymnals. But I'm not so sure that people out in the pews without hymnals could follow that. Yeah.
Certainly, sir. resolution opposing portions of the governor's fiscal year 24-25 budget. Whereas State Constitution of Michigan, Article 8, Section 3 says, quote, leadership and general supervision over all public education, including adult education and instructional programs in state institutions, except as to institutions of higher education granting baccalaureate degrees, is vested in a State Board of Education. It shall serve as the general planning and coordinating body for all public education, including higher education, and shall advise the legislature as to the financial requirements in connection therewith. Whereas in February 2024, Governor Whitmer put forward her 2024-25 budget proposal that included, number one, $155 million for MyLeap to create a committee for literacy achievement, working with higher education institutions that would critically evaluate literacy professional development and rank literacy curricula, basing awards to districts on the rank of the district's selected curricula. Number two, $10 million for MyLeap and the Literacy Committee to establish a READ innovation competition that would foster district-led innovations in literacy instruction grounded in the science of reading. Whereas the above two budget proposals involving literacy raise constitutional questions of Article 8, Section 3 of the state constitution, be it resolved that the State Board of Education opposes the budgetary sections above which are contained in the governor's fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget, and urges the legislature to continue to place funding pertaining to public education literacy in the MDE budget.
So we have a motion, we have a second, we have a friendly amendment associated with that you've just read that you are accepting.
I accept, and the seconder, I think, does too.
There you go. So we have no issues with the motion properly placed on the agenda. Would you like to speak to it additionally?
Yeah, I would just like to say I support it in its original form. I have concerns about the transfers and the constitutionality of it. However, I certainly can appreciate removing those sections because I would like to have this body speak to at least two of these sections. I think these are the even more glaring, the two that remain, and I appreciate Vice President Lipton's amendment. I would just ask that instead of to continue to place funding pertaining, I would just ask that it say to continue to place all, because currently they do put some literacy funding in MDE. I would like them to make it clear that I'd like all funding pertaining to public education literacy in the MDE budget.
You're proposing the addition of the word all.
No, oh, no. Okay, well then, okay.
Okay.
Never mind.
So the...
We don't need to. I thought...
Fair enough. Board, we've got a resolution as amended in a friendly fashion. Would you like to speak to the friendly amendment? If so, that's fine.
I think the characterization by Board Member McMillan is adequate.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Ms. Tilley. Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Ms. Tilley?
I just wanted to add, I'm not sure if Tom mentioned it or not. If he did, I missed it. The what is now number 1, it needs a period at the end.
After curricula?
Oh, yes.
Fair enough. Thank you. I appreciate that, Ms. Tilley. And he did note, for those of you following along, that there is an extra S after constitutional, which should be stricken. And there's an extra comma, a comma after literacy in the line above involving literacy that should be stricken. Neither one of those changes the meaning of none of these change the meaning of the text, but just to clean it up for public exposition. Okay, thank you. Other board members, reflections on? So, Dr. Pritchett, please. Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate the friendly amendment because the first two I had some concerns on because they dealt with staff. I want to go on the record as being opposed to this transfer period, but because the transfer has now happened, I don't want to jeopardize funding for staff at this point because I don't want to jeopardize everything that has ramifications all the way down the line. And we're trying to keep things as stable as we can while we work out, hopefully work out, who should have final jurisdiction over this program at this point. I appreciate the department's and Dr. Rice's leadership in this, in working through the system. This wasn't anything any of us asked for. It was sprung on us in July. And so now we're trying to protect the program so that children, families, teachers, administrators can continue on while hopefully it can get worked out and be transferred back to MDE where it belongs, where I firmly believe it belongs at this point. But I do appreciate the friendly amendment because certainly those two areas, to me, are very, very clear where they should be. That's literacy training, money to assist locals with literacy training, and that is under MDE, should not be under any other department. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pritchett. Dr. Pugh?
I'm in agreement with everything that's been said and happy to see that we can together move forward with this resolution. And to Dr. Pritchett's points that she raised and my earlier comments, I do still want to ask for legal counsel to join us in a closed session. So if anyone wants to propose the best way to do that, because I do want to look at the bigger picture as I'm out and about. I'm getting calls, I'm getting questions about what is going on with this, and I just want to make sure that we look at this and assess it from all angles. And do our due diligence there, and people expect us to do that. And we were elected to make sure that we're ensuring that we're providing the best education for our children. And we were elected for 8 years. We will be here over multiple administrations. When I got here, I came in with Snyder on his second term. And now we have Governor Whitmer, and I don't know what will be on the other side, but we will be here. So I do want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to see that that this is constitutionally sound and make sure that we're securing our education system for our public education system for our children.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh. Other board members? Mr. Bullock and Ms. Tilley.
I'm pondering how I want to phrase. Not that I'm in total objectivity to this at all. Well, I am happy we removed the first two, but just as the original resolution went forth last month, it was a skeleton resolution that needed some work in a committee. And as I read and as I comprehend what I think I know, and as a legislator, these are probably 2 more bullet points that belong in the legislative committee and get thoroughly vetted to a place where Member McMillan's ideas are clear and concise to bring forward. Right now, I'm not comfortable with this portion. I think this is something that should be worked in the legislative committee without beating a dead horse on the table and work it to and I'm also very receptive to a closed session with some legal counsel to make sure that the constitutionality of this thing, because again, we just got through saying people interpret the Constitution different. And so I think that may be some philosophical differences at the table.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Bullock. Ms. Tilley, Ms. Snyder.
I was going to say, I think that's a great idea about legal counsel. We have had a lot of questions here at the table that have gone unanswered. And not only is everybody watching in Michigan when it comes to education, everybody's watching nationally, and a lot of people have a lot of questions. So I think it would be good to be informed. I still welcome, because I've asked repeatedly for my lead to present at the table. So I still welcome them to present and inform us. But at this point, I think it's also a great idea that we get legal counsel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tilley. And just for point of clarification, that invitation has been extended 4 months and counting.
To my lead.
Mm-hmm. And declined 4 months.
That's correct, Dr. Pugh. Ms. Snyder.
I'm just going to support the resolution as we've amended it. I think it's a good starting point, and I would echo the pursuit of legal counsel and the continued pursuit of encouraging my LEAP to engage. And Pam has it right on the nose that, you know, she was brought in under a different administration. Now we're in a different administration, but both of them have tried to undermine the State Board of Education with extra agencies. And so, and I think, again, I've said it before, regardless of the extent to which we disagree regularly, there's a space to do it. And I think when you take that space out of societies and you take that space out of governance, oppression is ripe. So I hope that we'll, again, move forward together.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Ms. Lipton, Mr. McMillan. I'm sorry, say again?
I've had my hand up, but I probably want to get in before him. But you can go ahead. I mean, I think he should probably close. But
that's fine. Well, I'm going to close. Oh. But go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to say that there's nothing in this that precludes any of these other tools that the State Board can avail themselves of. Going into closed session to receive legal counsel is certainly a tool that any public body has, including this, as well as additional work on additional resolutions that perhaps explore the in-depth constitutionality, separation of powers, etc., that might come to light after going into closed session and seeking legal advice. But I do think, as I said, maybe at the beginning of the meeting, that budgets are being discussed now, and there is a timeliness that a public body can speak through its resolutions as a tool. And I do think that we have discussed this and that there's a timeliness to making statements that can morph into multiple statements at further junctures. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Mr. McMillan to Dr. Pugh, and then Dr. Pugh, yeah. or if you'd like to do a coin flip, what would do, red on one side, blue on the other.
Yeah, I just want to tag on to what Vice President Lipton just said, is that Gongwer on Friday quoted, the headline, House budgets will start to move after spring break. So before we meet in April, they're going to start moving budgets, which means they are talking about them now, making decisions potentially right now. So while I can appreciate Treasurer Bullock's concerns as far as filling it out, or I agree with what Vice President Lipton just said, that, or Co-Vice President, that there can be another resolution that comes forward in April. I love the idea of legal counsel, talking to them, and maybe that's an even better route than going straight to the AG for an opinion, but actually have the AG's office, who is supposed to be the counsel that's supposed to be our counsel from the AG's office, talk to us about these issues as well of constitutionality. So that's even a great next step as well. But I do think that as Co-Vice President Lipton just said, that speaking now is, while we still can have an impact, I think is an important step, and would be great if we could do that in unison today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. President Pugh.
And I was actually, Ellen, a board member, Lipton, took the words out of my mouth, and and in response to board member Bullock, sometimes I want to say Senator Bullock, board member Bullock, that
title for life.
Okay, all right. Well, Senator Board Member Bullock, in response to all of that, I too agree, is that we should go ahead and move forward now. We will continue to get more information. Definitely want to have a closed session with legal counsel, but also want to hear from the department, and get your thoughts, Dr. Rice and whomever staff, on what you're thinking, and then come back and speak to this issue again. I mean, this is a pretty big, heavy issue that's in front of us. So us voting today does not stop us from coming back and speaking to this issue again through a resolution.
So thank you, President Pugh. I appreciate the amendments as well. I think they take a resolution which was initially not simply misshapen but inaccurate, and make it much stronger, and I would argue defensible in the public square. During our testimony in the legislature, during our legislative lobbying, at our legislative luncheon, we have made the points about these two elements: this $155 million line item, this $10 million line item, totaling together just shy of $1/6 billion. We're very strongly opposed on policy grounds. We do think there are potential legal issues associated with these. I say potential because this is, after all, a proposed budget. It is a recommended budget. It is not a budget that's been approved and is about to be effectuated. But I do think that there are policy issues here. We've raised those with legislators. I do think there are potential legal issues, and I think the amendments that have been made reshape this resolution to a place where the board is rightfully lobbying for a portion of its authority, and that being over literacy. So those would be my reflections. There's a lot on my leap, and I'm not going to peel all of that back today. But I do think that does justice to this resolution. Yeah, thank you. So,
good.
Okay, so that was a little bit. It was a little bit of a showstopper. Does anybody else care to share?
I just have one quick question.
Please.
From a legal counsel standpoint, do we wait on the AG to continuously sort of say, yeah, I'm okay with this? Or is there any potential for independent legal counsel that, because there's almost a conflict here of, I'm just wondering if it's possible to pursue that too. And if we could ask her to respond to that potential as well.
Well,
which is what we could achieve in a closed door session. I get that. But.
Yeah, I do think that's a conversation not for the public square, but rather for a closed session. I hope you'll be able to attend that closed session. Dr. Pugh.
I was going to say the same thing. I think that we may be getting too far ahead of ourselves. I think we just need to have a closed door session with legal counsel. I personally, and I think that others here at the table would like to hear a little bit more about the suggestion that the AG gave us, which was to wait and see. I don't know that the door was shut. I mean, maybe difference of interpretation on that suggestion that the AG gave us. So would love to just hear a little bit more about that during that closed door session with legal counsel. So.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Thank you, Dr. Pugh. Anything more for the good of the group? If not, the vote on the table is to Mr. McMillan's motion, resolution, as amended, and amended, okay? So, but I think those amendments have been pretty clear. We have an amended version in writing. It's all typed up. It's neat. And to that, we have made 3 changes: a period, a deletion of a comma, and a deletion of an S. So
and
for
renumbering 1 and 2.
We will certainly renumber 1 and 2. Yes, sir. We will re-enumerate. Yes. So so for a legislative body or an advisory body, I think this is pretty doggone clean. Any questions about what we're voting on? Hearing none, Ms. Evans, a roll call vote, please.
Bullock?
Still no.
Lipton?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Pugh?
Yes.
Robinson?
I'm doing 2 yeses.
One for Senator.
One for the senator and 1 for me.
Snyder?
Yes.
And Tilly? Yes. Motion carries.
You know, you're on a board for 14 and a half months and you think you get to double vote. So, and stick up new staff members for donuts.
History is good.
Just to be clear.
Thank you very much, Board. Board, we are at the report of the State Board President. I beg your pardon, at 2:43.
Keep trying to give me that job. You know what? I'm going to pass. I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. And I'm going to be brief. I want to recognize former State Superintendent Don Bemis, who passed away at the age of 89, Dr. Judy Pritchett, on February 13, 2024. Proof that there is life after the state superintendency. Whether there's life during the state superintendency is a different question.
True.
He had a long career in education in Michigan, most notably in the Utica Community Schools, and served as state superintendent from 1988 to 1991. I also would like to recognize former State Board of Education member Carolyn Curtin, who served on the State Board of Education from 2003 to 2010, and whom Dr. Cassandra Ulbrich remembered as a strong board member. She died at the age of 85 on February 25th, 2024. I just want to say 2 thoughts about 2 events that took place last week. One was an event on diversity in literacy. You heard our presenters discuss it. But it really was sort of stunning to see a sea of people at the Lansing Center who were all geeked about diverse classroom libraries. And this was not necessarily the group that I would have expected to have been geeked about diverse classroom libraries. I was really very excited about the energy in the room and the commitment. A lot of us work with diverse young people and recognize the challenges in today's environment with the competition for time with cell phones, computers, and so many other things that impede our ability to get through to young people. And So from my vantage point, anything that we can do to geek kids on reading, shy of presenting children with the completely inappropriate or the developmentally inappropriate, I think is a beautiful thing. And to that, the fairness of all children getting to see themselves in some way, shape, or form in their literature. I grew up, I always saw myself in my literature. It was never a thing. And then I began to teach and realized that my kids never saw themselves in their literature. And it became a thing in adulthood. We can't build a better past. We can't go back, Dr. Carnell, and change what people experienced as children. But we can build a better future for our children in Michigan. And I think it's really powerful to hear from 3 superintendents in 3 very different communities. I mean, East Lansing is not Benton Harbor, is not Port Huron. Those are 3 different communities in 3 very, very different parts of the state. And they are similarly committed to this work. That's a big deal, particularly if you wonder if anybody looks like you in literature. And then the answer comes in your classroom library, or your school library, or your community library. That's a big deal. If everybody always looks like you, it's not so much of a thing. If nobody looks like you, and all of a sudden you see someone who does, that's a big deal. It's reminiscent to me of taking 1,000 children a year, 6th graders, Ms. Tilley, to Western Michigan University, all of our 6th graders, every year to Western, to give them a college experience for a day. And the kids are looking around on college campus for themselves. They're literally looking for themselves. And when they see themselves in some form or fashion, however they define themselves, they then begin to say, you know what? This can be me. This about, oh, you can make it on a college campus, I now believe it, because I actually saw somebody who looks like me, however I define me. And it's not always by ethnicity, just to be clear. A whole host of different ways people see and hear and think about themselves. That's a big deal. And to center children in their own reading is to engage children more in their own reading. At the end of the day, we're not there. At the end of the day, educators fade away. And what's left are their opportunities and their lessons for children. And this is a big deal. Relatedly, last week we began Comprehensive History Instruction, our latest series. And this was a 3-part series, which will continue next week and then the following week, by a University of Michigan professor on the history and art of African Americans in the 19th century, right after the Civil War. And I have sat in on most, not all, but most of these sessions over the last 2 years. And this guy was he was just extraordinary. He was super interesting. This is different than diverse classroom libraries because this effort, Ms. Tilley, is to geek teachers and to drive up their knowledge base so that they can do it with children. So it is a little bit indirect, in fairness. But I believe, that our teachers don't learn a lot about themes, movements, peoples, and that they need to learn more. It's hard to teach what you've never learned yourself. And so I share this with you because we're on a long journey. We've got a lot of work to do in this regard. A lot of us were poorly taught history. I was. okay? And a lot of us have more history to learn, if not to relearn. But this is a big piece of this. Having our history and political science and other professors teach our teachers of social studies and other things, K-12, can only end up getting our teachers to be more engaged in their social studies, learning, and then to get kids on that as well. So those are 4 things that I offer you today. 2 passings on of educational leaders, and then I would argue 2 risings up of new efforts moving forward. Board, I'm going to give our board president one last opportunity.
You know, well, the only thing that I will add, because you recollected my memory, is that this is March's Reading Month. We've heard that, and just again encouraging folks to sign up on the volunteer list, and or just let's send our pictures of where we've been or what we've where we've been with children, hopefully doing some reading. And I have had some opportunities to do that, and I'll share some of that at a later time.
I look forward to seeing some of you in the next couple of months on in my comings and goings. I'm looking forward to getting back to Flint this year. I'm looking forward to going to Macomb County this year. Who knows, but that I might see one or more of you in either of those venues. And then there's the opportunity to honor the new state teacher of the year, whoever he or she may be. Next item on today's agenda is the state and federal legislative update. We'll now hear from Dr. Cheryl Kennedy, Legislative Liaison in the Office of Public and Governmental Affairs, who has been very, very busy in the last month, and I think that it's fair to say that the inline skates that we bought Dr. Kennedy have served her in good stead. Dr. Kennedy.
You wouldn't want me in inline skates. Thank you, Board. As you know, you've received your reports, and just an update to that. This week, today actually, House Regulatory Reform will report out House Bills 5227, 5228, which requires training around AED training for coaches and placement rules for schools. And then Senate Pre-K through 12 Sub-Appropriations Committee took testimony today from ORS, the Office of Retirement Services, Launch Michigan, and EPIC Research. There was some really good testimony about the science of reading and reading instruction, and a lot of praise for the dyslexia bills that I'm going to talk about next. While we were sitting in this space and hearing our reading experts talking about that work, we were passing in the Senate, on the Senate floor, the dyslexia package that Senator Palahanky and Senator Irwin has been working on this for as long as he's been here. And so not only congratulations to them, but congratulations to their staff who have worked tirelessly with us to get it right. It has passed the Senate, both passed the Senate. They will now go to the House Education Committee. We do expect probably at least one more substitute. There's still some tweaking going on, but as a whole, those bills are strong and will support literacy education in Michigan. And then I just recently left Senate Education Committee, and they took testimony on Senate Bill 285, which is mandatory kindergarten enrollment. Currently in Michigan, we do not require enrollment for kindergartners, so that is, again, a Senator Palahanky bill that we've been very lucky and worked closely with our legislators to get them right. And next week, we expect school safety and mental health bills will get a hearing. There's a package of them. One creates, we already have a commission, but the commission is in boilerplate. This will codify the commission. We have okay to, also codifying okay to say. 2 bills standardizing response terminology for first responders. And then another bill that requires behavioral threat assessment teams in schools. The legislature will take 2 weeks for spring break, the last week of March, and the first week of April. Dr. Kennedy will breathe, and then we will be back at it.
Well, it's good to know that some people still speak about themselves in the third person. Okay, thank you, Dr. Kennedy. That was a lot. Stay with us, because this is often an opportunity for board to ask questions or otherwise hold forth. Board, do you have questions, or would you like to hold forth?
I don't have a question. I just want to commend Dr. Kennedy. I was at the House Ed Committee meeting that was held at Sterling Heights High School last night, and she had 5 minutes to present. She did an excellent job. I mean, I saw her in the audience, and the time kept ticking down, and I thought, well, maybe she just came to observe. And all of a sudden, they called on her, and she did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pritchett. Dr. Pugh?
This doesn't fit here, but I'm going to act like it does. To Dr. Pritchett's point, and something else that you said, Dr. Rice, about visiting schools. There have been times when the board has gone off-site and met, and would like to consider that for upcoming meetings for the calendar year. So
that's fine. Yeah, you bet.
School visits.
Sure. Thank you. The last time we did that pre-pandemic was at Saginaw ISD, if I recall correctly. Okay, that would be great. It ends up being, it's a little bit of a different production, so we'll talk with Mike Flaminio about how to make that happen and with what frequency. You and I will have that conversation. Okay, thank you. Hold on a second. Any other questions for Dr. Kennedy?
I just want to say for the record, and I don't know if I said it before or not, but I was definitely concerned when Marty left us, and I'm very happy to have you at the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, and you know, she's a twofer because she's a longtime educator and former legislator as well. So we appreciate our former legislators, although we don't always say so.
That's right.
So it bears mentioning. Thank you very much, Ms. Tilley.
She was at our legislative luncheon before COVID when she was still over at the legislature.
She was, and I met her June 25th, 2019, with a broken wing outside of the Capitol. And Dr. Kennedy, just to clarify, mandatory kindergarten is not mandatory full-day kindergarten.
Correct.
Right. And to clarify, the vast majority of our young people of that age are already in kindergarten. Correct. So this is not a sea change relative to what young people experience. This is cleaning it up and getting that last 1,000 or a couple thousand children a year into kindergarten. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, and I will share in testimony, Dr. Vitti from Detroit shared also that it's not just about the enrollment on kindergarten roundup, getting the kids in on that day, but it's also setting the culture and the expectation that those kindergartners come every day.
Well, and that culture, while we're doing commercials, ought to be about earlier still, that school begins at 4, ideally, and for some with early childhood special education, for example, 3. Yeah, and so I just think there's some value to reflecting upon that. This is not Mrs. Felton's kindergarten classroom in 1967 in Dayton Public Schools. It's a different era, and so many of our kids get off to bumpy beginnings and really need more from us as a result. That's not to say everybody does. It's not my point. But for those who don't have a lot at home, they need more from us in school. and with class sizes, small class sizes that permit us to do a lot with them so that we're able to catch them up. That's one of the research-based findings that we have in public education, that small class sizes have a big meaning when you're teaching early literacy. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. Enjoy those inline skates.
Thank you.
Dr. Pritchett, to you for SBE Legislative Committee. Would you like to report on the legislative luncheon?
Yes, we did have a legislative luncheon on February 29th. Thanks to everybody who was able to come. It was in the Heritage Room, which was the first time I'd been there. I was very impressed. While the schedule for the House that day had gotten changed, we did have some House members who made an effort and were able to come over. I thought it went very well in the fact that we were actually able to have conversation. We purposely did not have presentations. We broke bread together and had some, I thought, substantive conversations about things the board was focused on and a good update from the legislators who were there. Thanks to staff. I know that's not easy when we decide we're going off campus and all of the things you have to remember to bring, et cetera. So I do appreciate staff. And I would recommend that we look at doing that again. I know it was an extra drive for board members also, but having it on a day that we're not tied to this business meeting, I think added something to it also. My opinion, anyways. As I indicated earlier, I was able to attend the House Education Committee meeting last night at Sterling Heights High School. They had three major presentations from the head of school, president of school social workers, president of school psychologists, and president of school counselors. They took the bulk of the time, did a wonderful job of trying to frame for people not only the shortage, which we're experiencing all over the place, but the demands that have changed pre-pandemic to what our students are experiencing right now, and some of the things they're doing. So it was good back and forth discussion on that. As I said, Dr. Kennedy was able to present also two administrators, one from Sterling Heights High School, another one from Chippewa High School. Our next legislative committee meeting is April 2nd at 12:30. And the link, thank you to Liz, will be on the board calendar. So, and I think that's all I've got. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pritchett. Dr. Robinson, your extensive NASB report? No? Okay, can't give it away. Other board members, other comments? Dr. Robinson.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention that in addition to March being Reading Month, it's also Music in Our Schools Month. So I was very happy to see the art folks here today. And just know that in every school where we have art, there are music teachers toiling away there as well, and we appreciate what they do. So I just wanted to give a shout out to my people out in the schools that are teaching music to our children.
It is always important to toot your own horn.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Whether you dance to the beat of a different drummer or not.
Got all the arts in there.
I'm doing the best I can. I'm here all week, folks. Other board members. Senator Bullock.
Well, quickly, we've talked about it being March Reading Month and Music and Arts Month. It's also Women's History Month. So I just want to lift all you wonderful ladies in the business that do a lot. We talked several times today, since the group was here this morning about the diverse libraries. You mentioned when you were about the distraction of the laptop and the computer and the phone. Sister Kennedy just brought it up, and I was reminded of an organization that I did some work with in Detroit. We convinced barbers to convince all of the young people who they were cutting hair to disconnect from their devices for the hour that they were getting their hair cut. And we brought in books to those barbershops so some of the friends were teachers of this nonprofit, got books, donated the books. And so if the kid liked the book, they got to take it home. But they had to disconnect from their electronic device. And it just came to mind as you were talking about the distraction of cell phones and the way we talked about this diversity in reading and seeing ourselves in books. So those books match those communities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The power of that is multiple. It's kids hearing about the value of literacy in all sorts of spaces. So, you go to get your hair cut, you don't expect someone's going to sweat you about reading. And oh, by the way, have books. And oh, by the way, have books that you like. And oh, by the way, have books that you can take home.
Yeah.
All of that's interesting. We had the person who he's from the East Coast, who started the Books and Barbers program. I'm missing the name, but I'm not missing the concept. And it's a really great concept.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful concept. We were putting bookshelves in our barber shops in Kalamazoo.
Yeah, they put the little like IKEA style bookshelf.
Yeah.
We bought about 50. So we went to the barber shops, put them in, installed. We put them together first, and then dropped off, and the books came in a packet. And if you check in on them 2 weeks later, half those books are gone. You bring them another packet. But you had to get the barbers to buy into convincing the young people to disconnect.
Yep. We did training for the barbers.
Yeah.
That's a trip. But I think well worth it, because again, what you want is kids to hear this message in stereo. And so they hear it at Rocket football, they hear it at AAU basketball, they hear it at Little League, they hear it at the barber shop, they hear it in church, the mosque, the synagogue. We want them hearing the importance of literacy everywhere they go. We know we're not going to get rid of cell phones. We get that.
And you can get them to read, like some of their confidence levels. They can read, they can't. Go ahead and read this book then. Ma'am, you got a free cut today. There are ways to incentivize the young people that match their upbringing.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. Mr. McMillan.
During my haircut, I wouldn't get through a paragraph. It literally takes 5 minutes.
They have comic books too. Yeah, comic strip. Archie.
I just wanted to reiterate, I like the idea of the legal counsel. I'm not sure if I hope we can meet in closed session. I know it would be on pending litigation or potential litigation, or I don't know what we have concerns about the constitutionality. I don't know. I hope that would be enough to be able to meet. And then finally, Rebecca, who's had public comment, it was a good paradigm shift, or it was a good, I think she brought a good paradigm that parents have control of the education of their children. Some choose to opt in to public education. And that is the domain of this, of this body, as the Constitution says, public education, and of government, quite frankly. So the idea that those that don't opt in, that's outside the domain. So any kind of registry or for homeschoolers or anything like that really is not the domain based on the Constitution. So I think that was a good paradigm shift, or a good paradigm that she brought to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Anyone else care to share? Ms. Tilley.
I concur with Happy Women's History Month. And I think it's just absolutely great when you look at the diversity at this table. You have Black women, you have an Irish woman, you have a Jewish woman, and when you think about the diversity in this room of women that come in and out of employees from the department, we've come a very long way. I'm very happy about that. I get a lot of constituent calls, concerns, in addition to foster youth. I get special needs children that have IEPs or that need IEPs, and I'm concerned with schools pushing back on giving IEPs to students that need them. And I do definitely want to thank you, Dr. Rice, for your help and the department's help when I reach out with these issues. One issue that I want to speak to, I know some of the board members are aware of, but I want to go, and you are aware of, but I want to go on the record. Friday, March 1st, 2024, Montana Hale, an African-American 11-year-old student, was attacked from behind in school by a Hispanic 12-year-old peer. She defended herself, resulting in an altercation. Neither girl was reported injured, and there were no weapons involved. Afterwards, both girls were handcuffed and taken into custody, where they were both transported to the police department. Her mother, Crystal Smith, enlisted my assistance, and I've been giving her advice and resources to help because her daughter was taken to juvenile detention. Montana was charged on Monday, March 4th, 2024, with disorderly conduct and released pending a hearing that is being scheduled. And mom does not have an attorney, so she is trying to find an attorney, and I am giving her resources for that. Ms. Smith is a Michigander who still owns a home in Michigan and relocated for work 2 years ago to Fremont, where the incident occurred. She is moving back to Michigan and putting her daughter back into Michigan schools. She stated, as a mother, I am outraged, I feel helpless, I am in disbelief, I am sad, heartbroken, and distraught. I haven't eaten or really slept. My job is to nurture and keep my child safe. While she was in detention, I constantly thought about Montana and realized my child is locked up and I can't help her. If I had it my way, the Ohio educational system and the educational systems throughout the United States would be safe places that educates and develops children, not tears them down or traumatizes and incarcerates them. She continued that Montana hasn't slept or eaten since being incarcerated as a juvenile. Montana is upset and sad. She said, I did the right thing in defending myself, and the school put me in jail. I never want to go back to that school again. Montana's last words to her during her visit in juvenile is, I want to go with you, Mommy. And Ms. Smith also has an 18-year-old son that attends that school system, and he is in his senior year, and he does not want to go back to school. He has less than a semester left to graduate. So we're talking about the traumatization of that 11-year-old, that 12-year-old, and their families. My statement is that schools should be a safe zone for our children. Parents should have confidence that when they send their child to school, they will return to them healthy, both physically and psychologically. Here we have an 11-year-old and 12-year-old being handcuffed and arrested for a fight. The school should have worked with the students and parents to navigate and de-escalate the situation. Instead, these girls and their families have been traumatized as they now try to navigate a system they should have never been introduced to in the first place. This may cause irreparable psychological harm. I am calling for the charges to be dropped immediately, training for staff, and disciplinary actions. Our youth must come first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You and I have talked about this on a number of occasions. It is surreal that you would incarcerate an 11-year-old girl for a fight in school that had no weapons and no substantial injury.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the group? Tuesday, April 9th, Tuesday, May 14th, Tuesday, June 11th, all regular board meetings, all 9:30 in the morning, all here. Tuesday, May 21st, 9:30, a work session, and it will be held off-site at
The University Club.
At the University Club. Okay?
Which university?
Our university.
Oh, the right.
Like Candlewood.
Michigan State.
Candlewood Suites.
There's always one.
Down that
If
way.
there are any
Go Blue.
If there are any topics board members would like to recommend for future meeting agendas, please notify Ms. Evans